Picture this. You're walking through the bustling streets of ancient Rome in 67A marble columns tower above you, the air thick with incense and the chatter of merchants. Suddenly, the crowd falls silent. Heads turn. Emperor Nero approaches, draped in golden robes, but it's not him that captures everyone's attention. Beside him glides a figure of breathtaking beauty, adorned in silks and jewels, moving with the grace of royalty. The crowd assumes this must be the emperor's new empress, but whispers spread through the gathered masses, because the truth is far more disturbing than anyone could imagine. The radiant figure they're staring at was born not as a woman, but as a boy named Sporus. And his story is one of the most chilling tales of obsession, power, and identity manipulation in all of human history. To understand how a young boy became the ghost of a dead empress, we need to journey back to the beginning of this dark tale. Nero wasn't always the monster history remembers. When he ascended to power at just 16 years old, he was seen as a beacon of hope. He lowered taxes, reformed laws, and patronized the arts. This was an emperor who wrote poetry, acted on stage, and dreamed of transforming Rome into a city of unparalleled beauty. But absolute power has a way of corrupting even the most promising souls. And at the center of Nero's transformation stood a woman named Poppaea Sabina. Ancient historians described Poppaea as devastatingly beautiful, brilliantly intelligent, and ruthlessly ambitious. She became the axis around which Nero's entire world revolved. His marriage to Octavia, daughter of the revered Emperor Claudius, was a political arrangement devoid of passion. Octavia was noble but reserved, a pale shadow compared to the luminous Poppaea. With Poppaea, Nero didn't just find love, he found obsession. Their affair scandalized Roman society, but Nero didn't care. He divorced Octavia and elevated Poppaea to the imperial throne. No expense was spared in expressing his devotion. Perfumes from Arabia, silks from the East, and rare gems from the far reaches of the empire poured into Poppaea's hands. Her image adorned statues, coins, and frescoes throughout Rome. But Nero's love was suffocating. He watched her constantly, consumed by jealousy and paranoia. He couldn't bear the thought of losing control over her heart. Poppaea, however, was not a woman to be controlled. Intelligent and self-assured, she challenged Nero in ways no one else dared. Their arguments grew more frequent and more intense. Then came the night that changed everything. In 65A, during a particularly violent argument, Nero's rage exploded. In a fit of uncontrollable fury, he struck his pregnant wife. Poppaea succumbed to her injuries shortly after, taking their unborn child with her. Rome mourned, but Nero did something far more disturbing than grieve. He completely unraveled. Nero refused the traditional cremation rites, instead preserving Poppaea's body in the Egyptian style. He built a grand mausoleum and declared her a goddess, commanding the imperial court to treat her as if she were still alive. Her seat remained empty at banquets, her name whispered with reverence. This wasn't just sorrow. This was delusion, and it was about to destroy an innocent young life. Enter Sporus, a palace slave in his early teens. He was well educated and had been groomed for administrative tasks, but it wasn't his intellect that caught Nero's fractured attention. Multiple ancient sources describe Sporus as bearing an eerie resemblance to the late Poppaea, particularly in his eyes and delicate bone structure. In Nero's shattered psyche, that resemblance ignited a terrifying spark of hope. He could bring Poppaea back. What happened next defies comprehension. Nero ordered physicians to surgically alter Sporus's body to make him more closely resemble his dead wife. This wasn't medicine. This was mutilation disguised as resurrection. The procedures were brutal, dangerous, and irreversible. No choice was given, no consent was sought. Sporus was simply sacrificed on the altar of an emperor's madness. But the physical transformation was only the beginning. Once Sporus recovered, the psychological reconstruction began. He was dressed in Poppaea's own silks, adorned with her jewels, and subjected to intensive training. Hairdressers shaped his curls into styles befitting an empress. Voice tutors adjusted his speech patterns. Etiquette masters taught him every movement, from how to pour wine to how to sit with courtly grace. Then came the ultimate violation of reality, the wedding ceremony. In a spectacle held with full imperial fanfare, Nero married Sporus. Rome's elite gathered, cloaked in their finest togas, offering gifts and toasts while knowing the horrifying truth behind the charade. Sporus, now renamed Sabina, became the official consort of the emperor. From that moment forward, Sporus's life became a never-ending performance. He joined Nero at public events, sat beside him at banquets, and endured the gaze of the entire empire. This wasn't affection. This was theater, and Sporus was both the lead actor and the prisoner. Every moment was calculated, every reaction monitored. When Nero recalled memories of Poppaea, Sporus was expected to respond as if he had shared them. Mistakes were not forgiven. Fear was his constant companion. The performance continued even as the empire began to crumble. When Nero embarked on a tour of Greece, indulging his fantasies of artistic greatness, Sporus followed. In foreign courts, he was presented as the empress of Rome, living a lie that grew more elaborate with each passing day. But no illusion lasts forever. By 68 AD, Rome had reached its breaking point. Rebellion surged through the provinces. The Senate condemned Nero. The Praetorian Guard abandoned him. The emperor who had once been hailed as a golden boy now fled, with only a handful of loyal companions, Sporus among them. In exile, as Nero prepared for suicide, Sporus stayed close. When the emperor finally ended his life, Sporus was left alone in a world that remembered him not as himself, but as a remnant of imperial madness. After Nero's death, Sporus became a living symbol of imperial excess. He was passed from patron to patron, forced to continue his performance, used and paraded as a curiosity. The worst indignity came under Emperor Vitellius, who planned to use Sporus in a public spectacle, reenacting scenes of myth and humiliation in the arena. Faced with this final degradation, Sporus made his first and only autonomous decision in years. He ended his life, likely by poison, refusing to become a spectacle one more time. He was no older than 20. Sporus's story is rarely told in full. Ancient sources treated him as a footnote, a symbol of Nero's descent into madness. But beneath the surface lies a profoundly human story of identity, survival, and quiet resistance. In death, Sporus reclaimed what life had denied him, the power to choose. His final act wasn't one of despair, but of defiance. After years of being forced to live as someone else's fantasy, he chose to die as himself. This story isn't just about ancient Rome or a mad emperor. It's a reflection on how power can distort love, how control can masquerade as affection, and how even in the face of overwhelming force, the human spirit can hold on to that final thread of selfhood. Let us remember Sporus not as an empress, not as a symbol, but as a young man whose life was rewritten by another's grief, yet who reminded the world that even in silence, even in shadows, the will to be remembered as oneself can still burn bright. In our modern world, where identity and authenticity are constant battlegrounds, Sporus's story serves as a haunting reminder that the struggle to remain true to oneself in the face of overwhelming pressure is not new. It's a battle that has been fought across millennia, in palaces and in ordinary homes, by those who refuse to let others define who they are. The boy who became an empress against his will ultimately chose to die as himself. In that choice, he achieved something that all of Nero's power could never give him: freedom.